Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.
And the International Olympic Committee is facing growing scrutiny after its recent video call with Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. The conversation, as well as what the IOC is not disclosing about it, has got people asking even more questions. Will Ripley has more.
Free Peng Shuai, the growing call of protesters,
Peng Shuai,
politicians, professional athletes. A global outcry for the Chinese tennis star many fear is being silenced.
It's time to speak up because there is less than 100 days till the Winter Olympics.
The International Olympic Committee trying to calm the controversy. An IOC statement seems to support the Chinese government narrative that the three-time Olympian is safe and well, despite growing concern for her freedom. The IOC handing out this single image Sunday of a 30-minute video call between Peng, IOC President Thomas Bach, and two other officials, asking to, quote, respect her privacy. An IOC official on the call says, I was relieved to see that Peng Shuai was doing fine, which was our main concern. Some suggest the governing body's real concern is not Peng, but profits. The IOC statement fails to mention Peng's explosive allegations 3 weeks ago that one of China's most senior communist leaders, photographed with the IOC's Bach in 2016, sexually assaulted her. Unlike the IOC, the Women's Tennis Association prepared to pull hundreds of millions of dollars in business out of China, demanding direct communication with Peng, unmonitored, uncensored. The WTA telling CNN, this video does not change our call for a full, fair, and transparent investigation without censorship.
The history books look back at this time. They will say the WTA, what an incredible masterclass in humanitarian leadership, the right way to do it, to call China on its abuses, and the International Olympic Committee sitting there, as they always do, basically doing nothing.
Which some say makes the IOC complicit in the apparent silencing of a tennis icon who dared to speak out against former Vice Premier Zhang Gaoli. He's known to keep a low profile, portrayed in Chinese propaganda as down-to-earth, a crusader against corruption.
The Communist Party will deal with this as an internal matter. I really doubt that they will actually refer this to prosecutors of the state, because that would raise just too many issues. All senior leaders had the goods on everybody else.
A final autopsy report shows Brian Laundrie, a key suspect in the death of his fiance, Gabby Petito, died from a gunshot wound to the head. His death has been ruled a suicide. That's according to a lawyer for the Laundrie family who made the announcement. Last month, Laundrie's remains were found at a Florida nature reserve. The remains were sent to an anthropologist for further analysis. The 23-year-old had been the subject of a massive FBI-led manhunt since September. That's after Petito's remains were found. Her death was ruled a homicide by manual strangulation. The young couple was on a cross-country trip when Petito, a 22-year-old Long Island native, went missing. Laundrie returned home in her van without her. A small European country is facing China's fury after it strengthened its ties with Taiwan. The U.S. is offering that country assistance, and the European Union is taking a side too. Here's more.
China voiced strong dissatisfaction with the EU member nation Lithuania on Sunday and downgraded their diplomatic ties. That's after Lithuania allowed Taiwan to open a de facto embassy there. But at a news conference, the country's prime minister says she does not regret her decision.
Lithuania wants a more intense economic, cultural, and scientific relationship with Taiwan. It was announced in the government program, and this should not have been a surprise to anyone.
Beijing views the self-ruled and democratically governed Taiwan as its territory, with no rights to the trappings of a state. It has stepped up pressure on other countries to downgrade or sever their relations with the island, even for non-official ties. On Monday, China's foreign ministry demanded that Lithuania end its newly enhanced relationship with Taiwan and threatened Lithuania, saying,
The decision was made at the expense of Lithuania's own interests.
But Lithuania defended its right to expand cooperation with Taiwan and said its foreign minister would go to Washington to discuss trade and investment projects. On Friday, a U.S. official said Lithuania would sign a $600 million trade deal with the U.S. On the same day, another U.S. official warned what they termed other countries against threatening Lithuania.
Reaffirm our support for our valued NATO ally and EU partner Lithuania. We reject attempts by other countries to interfere in Lithuania's sovereign decision to deepen cooperation with Taiwan.
Earlier on Friday, China warned Lithuania it would take all necessary measures in response to Lithuania's Taiwan office. The Taiwanese representative office in Lithuania finally opened last Thursday.
For our dead in China following a 6-story building collapse in the south. Disaster struck in the middle of the night, adding fuel to the flame of criticism over China's poor construction standards and so-called tofu buildings. Elsewhere, a young man from Wuhan says he's cutting ties with the Chinese Communist Party with help from a U.S.-based website. He joins around 400 million others that have done the same and tells us what sparked his journey. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more.
Reports of a residential building collapse are coming out of China. The incident killed 4 people in a case that echoes concerns over Chinese construction safety. The building served as a dormitory for local workers at a pharmaceutical plant located in the southern Chinese province of Jiangxi. The 6-story structure collapsed on Monday evening. Chinese state-run media reported that the search for victims concluded Tuesday morning. They confirmed all 4 people who had been buried in the debris had died. NTD cannot independently verify this information. Media reports also explained that a family living on the first floor started hearing strange noises right before the collapse. They managed to escape just in time. The building was built around 30 years ago in the 90s. The cause of the collapse is still under investigation. China has sought to improve construction quality and industrial safety. But accidents are still known to occur, with some companies cutting corners to lower costs. Tofu buildings have long been a big problem in China. The name comes from the quality of construction, which is said to be as unstable as tofu. Videos circulating online show some of these types of buildings. Over the weekends, part of a high-rise building's facade peeled off. And in Beijing, video shows a man scraping away at part of a wall with his bare hands. In the clip, someone asks, didn't they use any cement? As similar problems within China continue to surface, next we look at another issue tied to Beijing. 3 more Chinese people are speaking out about a major decision to quit the Chinese Communist Party. They join around 400 million Chinese people that have abandoned their ties to the CCP and its affiliated organizations. The 3 people announced their choice to quit through a U.S.-based website hosted by the Global Service Center for Quitting the CCP. One of them is a young man from Wuhan. He declared he would cut ties with the party last month. He gave himself the pseudonym Xiang Yi to protect his identity and to keep himself and his family inside China safe. On the Toidang website, visitors to the page can quit the Communist Party via pseudonym. This method is widely used to avoid possible retaliation from Beijing. Yi says the whole process started last year. That's when he learned how to overcome China's internet blockade and visit websites that are censored in the country. He recounted feeling awful after reading about Beijing's early cover-up of the CCP virus, which causes COVID-19, especially considering his hometown of Wuhan, the epicenter of the initial outbreak. He also described researching Beijing's decision not to close its airports. That led to large numbers of people leaving the country, allowing the virus to spread quickly around the world. He calls the treatment of Wuhan citizens at the time inhuman.
In the early stages of pandemic prevention, the CCP treated us like animals, just shut us in at home. As for grocery supplies during lockdown, the videos posted online about garbage trucks transporting food are all true.
Alongside Yi's decision to quit the party, 2 others announced they would leave the Young Pioneers Organization. That's the Communist Party's youth organization. Almost all Chinese children are made to join the organization, with the youngest of them just 6 years old. Yang Li and Qing Men are among those who joined at young ages, but their views of the party began to shift when authorities forcibly demolished their homes.
Our own home was taken away by the party. We have been petitioning to defend our rights, but are constantly suppressed. We have seen through the evil party. It's a demon. We look forward to the day when the Communist Party will face punishment. We denounce our ties to its affiliated organization, the Young Pioneers.
The movement to quit the CCP began more than 10 years ago, organized by the Global Service Center for Quitting the Chinese Communist Party. It's headquartered in New York and has more than 100 service centers across the world. That's in addition to its web presence. The center seeks to educate people around the world about the dangers of communism.
And theft by large groups of organized criminals is taking place across the U.S. in pharmacies and retail stores. Electronics giant Best Buy warned its workers might quit because of safety concerns. NTD's Phil Zhou has the story.
Best Buy is the latest victim of flash mob robberies across the U.S.
We are seeing more loosely organized groups come together and target our stores.
Barry says they go in and grab large amounts of merchandise, then run out.
For our employees, these are traumatic experiences, and they are happening more and more across the country. Obviously, their safety is our first priority.
She said workers may start quitting for their safety.
We have to go back to allowing police officers to do their job and letting the criminals know, you do not run the asylum. You do not run society.
Officer and founder of Blue Lives Matter New York City says the government has to lock up the bad guys and not let them out.
When you steal from these department stores 50, 60 times, there's no business with you being on the street. So you got to set an example, put the bad guys behind bars, and we'll see the crime start to go down.
Psychologist Dr. Barbara Becker-Holstein says it's important for workers to feel safe at work, especially after the pandemic, when people are fragile.
To go to work and then be frightened is more than they can handle, and they look for a way out. Sometimes it's quitting, sometimes it's calling in sick.
Dr. Holstein says management can help by showing that they genuinely care for their workers.
What we want to do is sort of like animalistic. We want to just give up. It's time, it's over. But the human part of us needs to come through with caring and kindness. Even a note to an employee at the end of the day, I see you did a good job. Great. You know, people need to not give up.
Stocks of Best Buy went down as much as 17% on the news before rebounding slightly to around $120. Phil Zhou, NTD News.
And with the holiday season approaching, organized crime continues to target high-end stores in California. After a series of smash-and-grab thefts over the weekend, some city officials say things need to change. We hear more from NTD's Cynthia Kai.
Organized crime continues to target California's high-end stores. In downtown Palo Alto, 2 businesses were the latest target of organized crime on Sunday night. One of the targeted stores, The Real Reals, is now taking precaution and has boarded up its storefront. These cases are reported following a series of smash-and-grab heists over the weekend, starting with an 80-person mob that cleared out the Louis Vuitton in San Francisco's Union Square. In a CNN interview with San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin, he says he plans to file felony charges today against the 8 people arrested in Friday night's organized retail theft.
This isn't a one-person job, and it's not a problem that's limited to San Francisco. As you pointed out a few moments ago, we're seeing these kinds of brazen robberies and burglaries all across the country.
Amidst the near-daily crime spree since the weekend, the DA is also facing a recall election for his handling of the city's crime. San Francisco Mayor London Breed also announced on Saturday that the city will limit car access to Union Square in response to the mobs of thieves that ransacked high-end stores in recent days. The thief mobs consistently use getaway cars parked nearby the crime scene. Walnut Creek's mayor is also not allowing cars down a street after 80 people stole from a Nordstrom store over the weekend. Similar organized crime has also hit Southern California. Around midnight on Sunday, police responded to attempted break-ins at the Louis Vuitton and Saks Fifth Avenue stores in Beverly Hills. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
A statue of a founding father is being moved from its nearly 200-year residence at New York City Hall. The move comes after the city's Public Design Commission voted unanimously for its removal. A statue of Thomas Jefferson will no longer reside at New York City Hall. This after some city council members objected to the presence of the 7-foot statue of Jefferson because he was a slave owner. In October, the New York City Design Commission, whose members were appointed by Mayor Bill de Blasio, voted unanimously to relocate the statue. Similar monuments, including statues of Civil War Confederate leaders, have been targeted for removal across the U.S. in recent years. The likeness of Jefferson has been at the New York City Hall since 1834 and will now be on long-term loan at the New York Historical Society. New footage of a deadly police shootout at a California strip mall has been released, along with a change in the official report of what happened. A warning that some viewers may find some of the footage disturbing. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
The police department in Milpitas, California released new footage and updated their report of what happened during a fatal shootout at a strip mall last month. The incident involved a suspect with a stolen vehicle who was later arrested and died a few days afterwards. Originally, the police reported that the suspect first fired at the detectives, but after a more in-depth review, they updated their report.
But since interviewing our detectives and reviewing the body-worn camera video, we've learned a detective fired his weapon first as a man began to emerge from his vehicle armed with a gun.
The police department released a portion of the body cam footage from the incident on Friday in an effort to be transparent and to help the public have a better understanding of what happened.
Let me see your hands! Gun!
The suspect was given medical aid until paramedics arrived. He died 4 days later in the hospital from his injuries. The police department said that no bystanders or officers were injured during the incident. Jason Blair, NTD News, California.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com/TV.